or any faculty or staff, contact them and it will eventually come to me and I can assess the situation and help you with it. Cool? Got any questions? All right, that was easy. Okay. Mr. Vintage, let's welcome Mr. John Vintage to the stage. Let's hear it for him.
Good morning. How cool is it to be standing in front of all these people today? Goodness gracious, I just don't know what to do. All right, so I'd like to talk to you about safety today, campus safety in particular. What you do when you're not on campus is not my problem, but be safe there too. Your mom will thank you, and probably your dad too. I don't know. So we'll talk a little bit about the Clery Act. A little bit about drugs and alcohol. It's not a tutorial, okay, so don't get too carried away here. Crime prevention, safety awareness, emergency notification and response, the kind of things that get sent to your cellular telephone if something is going on here at campus that you might not want to be a part of. Title IX was already talked about. I don't feel the need to talk about that. Violence Against Women Act, already been talked about, and bystander intervention. This is a lot of information. And if you should find yourself in a situation where you need to contact one of the CSAs that are here on campus about an incident that has happened, you might want to refer back to this. So on our website, we've actually got a tab at the very bottom of it for safety. It has all this information on it again so that you can peruse it more at your leisure. Now, the Clery Act is one of those things where when you see somebody's name attached to a piece of legislation, that usually means that something bad happened to that person, right? And their survivors have gone on to petition the government to enact some laws that would protect other people from befalling the same unfortunate instance. Clery Act involved student-on-student crime at a university in Pennsylvania back in the early 90s, I want to say. And the Clery Act, when it came into use, required schools that receive federal money to do certain things. One of those things is to collect information about crimes that have happened on campus. We have to compile all of that information and put it into the annual security report, the ASR. And inside of that report, there are going to be any crimes that happened on campus within the past 3 years. There's also going to be any statements that the school has prepared, forgot the P in that one. Statements that the school has prepared about safety on campus. So a lot of the stuff that we're going to be looked at today, stuff that you look at with Mr. Coachshaw, is also covered in there. Another thing that the schools have to do to be in accordance with the Clery Act is to make sure that we are issuing timely warnings and emergency communication with our students to keep them safe. And sometimes that takes the form of, don't come to school today, or there's a 2-hour delay, things like that. So we'll get more into that in just a little bit. So you're probably sitting there thinking, what does this have to do with me? It's got a lot to do with you. Hopefully it's not going to have too much to do with you if you find yourself the victim of a crime, or maybe the perpetrator of a crime. But I know that nobody in here is going to do that. We're all going to be adults, we're going to be civil, and we're going to make sure that my job is as boring as possible. Right? Right. That's what I like to hear. A lot of the time, crimes don't get reported to the police, which is unfortunate, but sometimes can be understandable given the nature of the crimes that get reported. If a crime of a sexual nature were to happen, it's not easy to talk about that stuff after it happens. There's a lot of reluctance on the part of the victim sometimes to get law enforcement involved with that. I can't really delve into the psychological reasoning for why that happens. I just know that that's a thing that sometimes happens. We, like I was saying before, publish and compile and publish data on any of the crimes that happen on campus. The campus security authorities are people like myself, people like Mr. Kokochow, people like Ms. Combs back there, full-time school officials, people that are here all the time. They're your CSAs, so know them. If anything happens to you, you feel like it might be a crime, bring it to our attention so that we can take measures to rectify the situation. Even if you think it's a crime, but you're not sure that it's a crime, let us know. Because, hey, if it gave you the heebie-jeebies out in the parking lot, odds are there's something to that. You know, there's a part of our brain that knows, I think, well, most of us, that knows when something is going on that is wrong, or feels, I hate to use the word immoral because morality is such a subjective term, but I think that we can all agree on a baseline morality. There's just some things that you don't do in a polite society. If you know of a crime has occurred on campus or near campus, that's what adjacent means. Bring it to the information, to the notification of the CSA. Let us know about that so that we can put that into our reports also. It's another thing that's going to happen. Like I was saying, most everybody here at CCMS is a CSA. Myself, Ms. Dutko, Ms. Lee, all your full-time faculty are, full-time staff are as well. This does not include front desk employees. So, person that you talked to when you first came in, that was sitting in the little cubicle maybe behind the glass window, is not a CSA. She would just give us that information and we would go on it from there. Adjunct instructors, which you're going to have one in the first semester for accounting, is not a CSA. And any student employees are also not CSAs. So lab assistants, intake assistants, and any other students that the school hires, either informally or as part of federal work aid study or work study aid, those people don't count. You can report the crime to anybody, but they will make sure that it gets to the appropriate person. Drugs and alcohol are prohibited on campus. I know it's a big surprise. Nobody was thinking that. They're like, yeah, this is college. This is a time where I'm going to experiment with mind-expanding drugs, things like that, right? You do that on your own time. You don't do it here at CCMS. Okay. We'll send you home if you come to school drunk, or if you come to school under the influence of some potent narcotic. I don't know what it is kids are doing these days. But yeah, we take a pretty hard stance on that. And the reason why, well, there's two reasons why. First of all is we're concerned about your safety. Got to make sure you put that one in number one, right? Gives everybody a warm, fuzzy feeling. The second reason is we want that sweet, sweet federal money that comes as a part of being in compliance with a drug-free, alcohol-free campus. We get money for that, right? We would become ineligible for any government money that you might receive if we start racking up these violations, which we don't have any, fortunately, because we do take a hard stance on that. There is not to be any, and I love this one, the unlawful manufacture, distribution, or dispensing, no drug dealing, no possession of illicit drugs or alcohol on CCMS property. So that means if I come to school one day and I see an RV parked in the back parking lot, I'm going to investigate that. I want to make sure there's no meth labs blowing up the parking lot. We just built that new building. We don't want to demolish it just yet. Still new, still got that new building smell to it. We like that. This last bit right here pertains to students who are in violation or get in trouble with the law with regard to drug use or alcohol. So, for instance, you're driving down the road, living your best life. Johnny Law's behind you in your rearview mirror, pulls you over, says you've been swerving. What's going on? They give you the field sobriety test, right? That's always fun. Say the alphabet backward. I can't do that sober. Never could. They find that you are operating the vehicle in an impaired state. They give you a DUI. It's not a good time for you. I've known people that have multiple DUIs, and I'm like, how are you still driving? Makes no sense. Blows my mind. But anyway, if you get some kind of a violation of that nature, you need to let the school know about it. And the biggest reason for that, really, is because many of you, most of you, will operate the vans that we use for lab. And if you got a bunch of DUIs on your license, we can't really insure you. We deal very closely with an insurance company. And if they tell us that you're not allowed to drive, you don't drive. What if you get into an accident and we didn't know that you had that DUI? Things just became really expensive for us. It's not a good position for anybody to be in, to be honest with you. Now, the effects of drugs and alcohol. Sometimes pretty groovy, right? Nobody says groovy anymore. I'm bringing it back. I'm not your dad. I don't need to tell you that it's bad to be expecting a child and to be partying it up, right? You want to give that kid the best possible chance in life. You don't want anything to happen to them as they're forming in the womb. But I'm basically just going to leave it at that. Drugs and alcohol will impair your ability to do a lot of things. To be a good student, to drive vehicles, to interact with people. It changes everything. But you know that already. You're grown-ups. At least I think most of you are grown-ups. Now, as far as the campus goes, this is a very safe campus. Like you've already heard, we don't have a lot of crime that happens here, fortunately. We do offer a lot of safety services. And the first thing is that we have a pretty wicked security system here. Every time I turn around, there's a guy on a ladder putting up a new camera. I'm like, what's next? Bars on the window? I don't know. But keep in mind that due to the surplus of cameras that we have here on campus, if you plan on breaking the law, or you plan on doing anything that you don't want caught on camera, odds are, better than not, that you're being recorded while you were here. It's being recorded right now. I'm being recorded right now, so that's scary. We all are on surveillance while you were here. Okay, there's no bad angles. I've checked them all out. We've got new high definition cameras. It's fantastic. The campus is locked for your safety. Not this week. I don't know about next week. It's going to take a little while to get your security badges going. But until all those security badges have been activated, the school will be open to you. But once they're all activated, we're going to lock it down. So anytime that you enter the school, you're going to need your security badge in order to do that. And we lock the school down because we only want students and people that have business here coming to school. We don't want anybody with ill intentions coming to school and disrupting our lives, just in general. You've seen the news, you know how bad things can get. We're determined to avoid that here. Talked about the ID badges. See next slide. Panic alarms, we got them. If we see something that's not right, we can covertly notify the authorities and they'll come running, hopefully. Police oftentimes patrol our campus, but usually they're across the street of St. X. There's the number of the local police department. Should you call them, we've got the non-emergency number, and of course you've got 911. Now, your ID badges need to be with you at all times once you get them, preferably around your neck. If you've got a lanyard of some sort, that's great. I keep mine on a little retractable doodad here on my belt so that it's always there ready to access so that I can go through all kinds of forbidden doors and stuff like that. Your badge is going to give you access to the exterior doors of the building. There's some rooms that students just aren't given access to willy-nilly, like the lab is one. Certain areas in the Educational Cremation Center are going to be behind a locked door. When you get that badge, you're going to sign an acknowledgement form to say that you got it, and if you lose it, you're going to have to pay 15 American dollars to get a new one. And I don't know about you, I wouldn't describe myself as cheap, I would describe myself as thrifty. I don't want to pay another $15 to get another badge that I lost because I was careless with it. So find some way to manage that, whether it's around your neck, on your belt, on your person, somehow. Now, once all those badges get activated, like I was saying, those doors are going to be locked and you're going to have to use your badge to get into the school at all times. Now, we, just as a precaution, I'm not saying this is a problem that we have here, but the campus, on average, is a very well-lit environment. But that doesn't mean that if you find yourself here later in the evenings, I know that sometimes we've got some lab sessions that run a little bit late on occasion, and especially in those winter months where the sunset is much earlier, and you might find yourself out in the parking lot at 5 o'clock in the evening, in the afternoon, and it's dark outside. And it's always a big shock to me when that time of the year arrives. It affects my SADS. We know it's seasonal affective disorder, right? That does bother me at first when we have those early dark times, or bedtimes, as I like to call them, because I'm old. Walk in groups. There is safety in numbers, and we want you to be safe. The next point talks about valuables and the management of valuables. For the most part, there's no reason why you should bring them to school. But there are some things that just inherently have value, like laptops, backpacks. A criminal sees a backpack someplace and they're like, well, they're next to a school, they're a student. There's probably textbooks in there that I might be able to get a little bit of money for. Textbooks, as you probably know, are expensive things. Criminals know that too. So what I'm saying is, if you leave anything in your car, make sure that it is concealed or in a compartment of the car where nobody can see it. I like to urge you to remove the temptation for anybody to break into your vehicle and steal your stuff. You don't want that to happen. You don't want that to happen. You're usually out a window when that happens, right? You got to get that repaired. That costs you even more money, right? So try not to put yourself in that position. I don't know who carries a key ring anymore, but if you do have a key ring, any item that you carry with you regularly, it's not prudent to put your address on Key rings especially. It's like, okay, well, here's a key. What does it go to? Oh, here's the address. This is the door that it opens. I bet you there's some good stuff in there that I'd like to steal. Don't put yourself in that position. Don't provide personal information over the phone. I'll tell you what, I get so many spam calls anymore. And recently, I've started to get a lot of spam text messages letting me know that my Netflix account has been not paid up. You know, they always, you can tell it's a spam because they have a bunch of garbage that's in it usually. Netflix has got varying letters that have, some of them are capitalized, some of them are not. It's like a 3-year-old wrote it, right? Somebody who really doesn't have a very strong command of the English language. But yeah, it's stuff like that. Phishing scams, things that you get in the email. You have to be very cautious about that stuff. Scrutinize that very closely. Make sure that somebody's not trying to pull one over on you. Has anybody here ever had their identification stolen, their ID? Yeah, I have too. That's not fun. It disrupts your life in so many ways. And I would like for as many of you to avoid that as humanly possible. Report any unusual circumstances. My favorite motto when it comes to this is, see something, say something. Even if you don't think it's, well, if you think it's a crime, but you're not sure, say something about it. Get another person's opinion about what just happened. Give them the facts so they can write it up. But see something, say something. Now, this part is about the ways that you would get notified of whether or not to come to school. It says if there is immediate threat to the health or safety of students and employees here at school, you should get some kind of a notification. And the ways that that usually happens are you're going to get a mass email, you're probably going to get a mass text. You can always look on our website, and if you follow any of our social media, we're usually pretty good about putting that on the Facebooks, the TikToks. I'm just kidding, we don't have TikTok. We should though. You know, places like that is where you're going to find whether or not you should come to school. Now, use your imagination as to what the immediate threat might be. You know, we live in that age where we're worried about people with ill intentions coming to public places and doing as much damage as they possibly can. So hopefully, if that happens, somebody's got the presence of mind to do a quick text message spam with everybody. It's like, don't come to school, we're getting shot at right now. Don't do it, right? Hopefully you'll get that information in time. Now the other kinds of closings that we might have to do with disasters of a more natural form. Bad weather. People that aren't from here probably don't know that in the wintertime, it doesn't happen all the time, but in the wintertime, sometimes we get this white stuff that falls out of the sky. And it freaks everybody out, and everybody forgets how to drive. Happens in the rain too in Cincinnati. A little bit of rain should hit the ground, everybody starts to panic, and they immediately go 15 miles below the speed limit. It drives me nuts. I'm like, come on, let's go, I got places to be. But if the weather is so bad that we need to close school, we're gonna notify you about that. Or the other thing that might happen is we might go to a delay, whether it's a 1 hour delay, 2 hour delay, cancel the morning classes, but have afternoon classes. That's the kind of stuff that you're gonna find out in these notifications. And you get all these notifications in the same way that you got the other ones. Now, I don't know how good we are about putting stuff on local news. We used to put it on Channel 12, WKRC. I almost said WKRP. That was a show. WKRP in Cincinnati. If you've never seen that show, it's worth watching. It is hilarious. But you're going to get all this information in all the usual ways. So keep a lookout for that.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Should we add that we no longer have the luxury of snow days? That typically a closure means we hold class via Zoom.
Ms. Ducktoad raises a very valid point. Ever since Zoom came out, my kids hate it too. They don't have snow days anymore. They're going to be glued to their computers, as you will be, so that we can give you instruction remotely. Isn't that wonderful?
So if you go to the syllabus option on the left side of your Populi page, when you're in a course, and click on syllabus, you'll see on the right links, and we will all have a Zoom link posted in that section.
Yep.
So it will live in each course and populate. You'll always know where to find it.
Sometimes I just get people randomly joining my Zoom and I don't know why. Does that ever happen to any other instructors? Get a notification like so-and-so has joined your Zoom group. I'm like, okay, that's fantastic.
We're not as much fun as you, so they don't.
Yeah, I guess. They just want to be in my class all the time. So there are times, unfortunately, when we have to vacate the building. Could be due to fire, could be due to active shooter, lots of different scenarios where you might have to go. And if that should happen, this wasn't changed, but you're gonna have to change this yourself. If we find ourselves leaving this building for an emergency, did everybody see the little park that's next door? It's called the Stephanie Hummer Park. Pretty sure that's what it's called. And it's got a parking lot over there. But more interestingly enough, and the reason why I selected this as our rally point, is because it's got this nice earthen berm, this little hill that kind of provides cover in that parking lot. Now, historically, large mounds of earth have done a really good job at stopping bullets. Call me crazy, but it's true. And so that's why I selected that, because knowing the kind of perils that we face in the 21st century, I thought that was a wise place to go. So if you should have to leave the building, go over to that park, get into that parking lot, and stay there until we tell you that it is okay to come back to the building. Sometimes we'll do tests of the fire alarm system. We'll do fire drill just like in school, like elementary school and stuff like that. We might do that periodically. Go over to that area, wait for me to come over and start checking names off. I want to make sure that I got everybody, right? That nobody is left in this building. If you think that there's an active shooter in the building and you find yourself leaving the building and law enforcement comes in, don't interact with the law enforcement. Let them come in and do their job. They're all amped up on adrenaline with itchy trigger fingers, and we don't want them accidentally injuring one of our students in the completion of their duties. Okay. So where are we going to meet? In the park, next door, not around back by the dumpster.
And their handout is correct
Oh, is
in
it?
their packet.
Oh, excellent. What kind of questions do you have for me regarding safety? Do you feel safe? You should. All right. I'd like to introduce myself. Again. In addition to wearing the safety hat, I also wear the clinical director hat. We often find ourselves wearing lots of hats around here. And part of being the clinical director is giving you information on day one about how your clinical experience is going to unfold here at CCMS. Next week,